Hi, how you doing? This is Craig Beck from stopdrinkingexpert.com. Welcome in to today's episode, and I want to tell you about the 5 most amazing, most awesome quit drinking books in the world. These books have great power in them. They can completely transform the way you think about alcohol. And in that change, in that restructuring of your beliefs comes freedom. Now, in the interest of transparency, I will include my new book in the 5. Because why? Well, it would be insane if I didn't, wouldn't it, eh? So I'll tell you about the new book. It's actually a rewrite of my original book, Alcohol Lied to Me. And I'll tell you why I've done that in a few moments' time. Before we go any further, I just want to remind you that if you're worried about your drinking and you really want to deal with this, then do something. Don't be passive. Don't sit there just watching YouTube videos. Do something. Engage in the process. If you want to come to bootcamp with me, the last UK bootcamp of this year is coming up in about a week or so. London, England, near Heathrow Airport. We've got 5 places left. If you want to come, this is going to be your last opportunity to attend a bootcamp in the United Kingdom for maybe 4 or 5 months. Go to stopdrinkingexpert.com to secure your place. The last Quit Drinking Bootcamp with me for 2019 is going to be in New York, Times Square, Manhattan. It's going to be awesome. Very limited places left for that. If you want to come on the 2nd of November, now is the time to get your ticket. Go to stopdrinkingexpert.com. So the reason I've made this episode today about the 5 best books in the world to help you quit drinking, and I haven't just talked about my own book, is because if you've done the online course with me, if you've come to bootcamp, you'll know one of the things that I say to you is you have to approach this issue in your life with 100% passion and commitment. You know, when you get to the end of this process, we need to be able to chop you in half and see that it says the word sober written in the middle. You need to be a little bit obsessive compulsive about this change in your life. Because one thing I've noticed over the last decade of helping people with their drinking problems is the people who come to me with kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the process, who are half-hearted, they always fail. The people who come to me and say, well, I kind of want to stop drinking, but I'm not sure because, how do I I'll try. As soon as I hear the word try, I think, we got a failure here. Because the word try is almost like a license to fail. Think about it. Think about how that word is used. You say to someone, I'm having a party, will you come? And they say, I'll try. Do you think they're coming? Not a chance. You won't see them for dust. Try means I'm going to fail, and I already know I'm going to fail. The people who are successful with this process, they're at the point where they're saying, enough. I'm sick of this. I hate alcohol. I want it out of my life. It's making me miserable. It's destroying everything that matters to me. And I will do anything you say, Craig, to get this filth out of my life. Those people go on to have amazing, happy, sober lives. And I'll give you an example because this guy's a bit of a legend. He's called Declan. Declan is from Dublin, Ireland. He actually came to Quit Drinking Bootcamp in London probably about 18 months ago, and he quit drinking. And he didn't start drinking again, but yet he came over to Toronto, Canada for bootcamp as well, just because he wanted to. And I was in Dublin recently, and I went for a meal with Declan. The changes this guy has made in his life is unbelievable. When he met me, he was drinking a bottle of whiskey a day. And since then, since he quit drinking, he's lost 5 stone in weight. I don't know what that is in pounds, but it's a huge chunk of weight. He's lost 5 stone in weight. He's actually bought an apartment in Bangkok. He's always wanted to live in Asia and experience that sort of life. And because he's not spending thousands and thousands and thousands of euros on alcohol that makes him miserable, steals all his energy and his focus, he's now had the opportunity to actually buy property in a different part of the world. And he was saying to me that he's setting up his own business and he wants to divide his life. So he spends 70% of the time traveling and seeing the world and the 30% back home in Ireland. He has completely transformed his life since he stopped drinking the attractively packaged poison. He's 55 years old. He spent 55 years trapped doing what other people wanted or trapped in the loop of alcoholism. And here he is making dramatic changes in his life because he's removed this filth from his routine. He's completely committed, completely passionate. He's one of the guys that gets it. So let's talk about these books, the 5 best books to help you quit drinking. And number one, they're not in any particular order. This is not a countdown. I'm just going to tell you 5 books that I think are amazing or that I hear are amazing. And the first one I'll tell you about is The Stop Drinking Expert, Alcohol Lied to Me Extended and Updated Edition. Now, this is basically the book that I wrote 9 years ago, something like that. And the reason I've rewritten it is because actually when I wrote that book, I had no idea the impact it was going to make around the world or to my life personally. Because I didn't write that book. I didn't start writing that book thinking, well, how can I get a book out there to many millions of people? All I did was I dealt with my own problem and then I documented it. And I kind of threw it out there and forgot about it. And pretty much nothing happened for 6 months because I didn't promote it, I didn't market it, I didn't even try and get a publisher for it. I just self-published it and I threw it out there into the world. And actually what I thought would happen would be that people would read it and hear all the stupid things I did to try and control my drinking. And they would come to the conclusion that I was a little bit weird. And maybe a couple of people would benefit from it and it would help them to stop drinking. I had no idea that so many hundreds of thousands of people would escape the misery that I was in because of that book. And so I read it again a few months ago. I read the book. It's 9 years ago. I thought, I'm not even sure what I wrote in that anymore. So I read it and I was shocked at how much was missing. Because over 10 years of helping people to quit drinking, well, nearly 10 years, I've learned many, many things. And I've picked up lots of tricks and secrets and tips and helpful advice and routines that you can implement into your lifestyle that makes this so much easier. And when I read the book, I just thought, oh my God, there's so much missing from this. And so I went back and I went through each chapter of the book and just added that new information in that I've learned over the years of doing boot camp, helping people on a one-to-one basis with my video coaching and communicating directly with people in the members area of my online course. And so the Stop Drinking Expert book is now live. You can get it in an ebook format for your Kindle. You can get it in a hardback book from amazon.co.uk or amazon.com. And in the next couple of days, it will go live as an audio book as well. And you'll be able to get that on audible.com or iTunes or any other good audiobook download place. I think I'm proud of this book because I know it makes a difference. I know that it helps people see alcohol in a completely different way. And one of the things I routinely say to people when they come up with excuses, justifications for their drinking, and they ask me, they come up with something and they say, but haven't I got a good reason? Isn't that a good reason? And I say, look, you don't need me to tell you whether that's a good reason or a bad reason to drink. All you have to do is change the drug. If you change the drug, it will become obvious. And I think the reason we have such a huge problem and a growing problem in the world with this drug is that we don't like to call it a drug. But it kills 3 million people every year. It's highly addictive. It's very clever and it knows exactly what it's doing. It kills 3 million people. And that number is growing every year according to the World Health Organization. And so we don't like to call it a drug. It seems strange to call it a drug. And yet it is. And so people come up to me and they say things like, but Craig, for my job, I'm a salesman and I have to socialize with my clients. And if they're drinking, I have to drink. It's just, I'm not going to make the sale unless I join in with the drinking. Haven't I got a great justification to drink? And I say to them, well, okay, imagine you turn up at a client meeting and there's a bunch of guys and they're all injecting heroin into their arms. Is there any way they'd be able to persuade you to join them? And most people say, no, absolutely not. I would never do that. And you see, that's the same thing. It's only that our thinking, our programming around heroin is perfectly aligned. It's correct. And yet our collective programming around the other drug, alcohol, is misaligned. It's erroneous. And that's the problem. It's when you go in and you can be persuaded to use the alcohol, it's because your programming's not correct. Once you get your internal belief structure, your programming around alcohol is perfectly aligned as it is around heroin, then nobody will be able to talk you into drinking it. It would be horrific a concept to you. You'd be thinking, why would I want to do that? Why would I choose to drink diluted poison? That's insane. And that's why this works so well. If you get that belief structure correct, you don't need to struggle with this. And one of the most frustrating things for me is the amount of people who email me who've so plainly got a problem, who's so plainly in misery because of this attractively packaged poison. And they email me with a blunt statement like, this is a scam. You're a con man. There's no way you can stop me drinking so easily, so quickly, so simply. This is a scam. And they walk away. They go off into the distance, convinced that they're right. And it's so frustrating for me because they only have to go to Trustpilot and see that there are 500 people willing to give 5-star reviews and put their name publicly to something with as much stigma as this. Can you think about what that takes for someone to publicly endorse a quit drinking program? They only had to do that. But people want to see what they want to see. And they storm off like, oh, so glad I avoided that scam. And it's frustrating for me because I've been where they are and I know I can help them. I know I can take them out of the misery. And yet, the harder I try to convince them, the more they're convinced that it's too good to be true. So, this book is now available. You can get it on Kindle, on Amazon. You can get it as a paperback and also coming very, very soon, next couple of days, as an audio book as well. Stop Drinking Expert, The Alcohol Lied to Me Extended and Updated Edition. Book number 1. Now, book number 2. William Porter, Alcohol Explained. I love this book. This book is so powerful. I've never met William. I think he's an English guy just like me, but I've never met him, never spoke to him. I would love to. And I would just want to give him a load of praise and say, you did something amazing there, because this book is just fantastic. Such great logic and common sense to it. And it really dissects everything that drinkers tend to believe about alcohol. You know, that it helps us to relax, it helps us to cope with life, it helps us to socialize, it helps us with confidence and social anxiety and all that stuff. William just takes all of this and he pulls it apart and shows you how the machine is working. And I can't say enough about this book. I absolutely adore it. And if you're serious about dealing with your drinking, please buy it. And go give him a good review as well if you enjoy it, because that's really important to authors. I know that. Next up, Annie Grace, This Naked Mind. Annie and I seem to have a lot of similarities. We seem to have been in a very similar position. We were both successful in our own right. You know, we weren't weak-willed failures, as, you know, the 12-step process would say we are. We weren't, you know, we had husbands and wives and children and careers, and we were doing pretty well in life, except we had this poison in our nightly routine, and it was just dragging us down. And I don't know if I personally was involved in Annie's escape from the loop, because I know she quotes me quite often in the book. I've never met her, never spoken to her. And Annie, if you're watching this, please get in touch. I would love to chat to you and find out just how much of our past crosses over and stuff like that. I know people rave about it. I think she does a great job. She also does something that I can't do, and that is she gives a slight female slant on it. She understands the female element to this addiction as well, much better than I ever could. And so, especially if you're a woman, I recommend Annie Grace, This Naked Mind. Well worth the read. Next, who's next? My list is over here. Just want to make sure I get it in, get it right. Next up, Jason Vale, Kick the Drink. Jason is another British guy. I don't know why we, as Brits, are dominating this space so much. Maybe it's indicative of the problem we have with alcohol, because it is literally everywhere in England. You can buy it in petrol stations. You stop your car to fill up with petrol, and you can buy a bottle of vodka at the same time. That always seemed weird to me. It's different around the world, and I've noticed that with my quit drinking boot camps. If I go to Australia, it's kind of difficult to get when you compare it to Great Britain. In Great Britain, you go into a newsagent's to buy a newspaper and they've got vodka. You go into a small shop to buy a tin of beans or a can of soup, they've got alcohol. You drive past a petrol station, they're selling alcohol. It's everywhere. In Australia, you have to go to a dedicated liquor store. But it doesn't do anything for the levels of addiction. People just know where they get it from. So Jason Vale is a British guy. He's actually famous for something completely unrelated to alcohol. And in fact, I don't think he really dedicates a lot of his time to it anymore. He's known as the Juice Master. And he's famous for encouraging people to use juices, to drink vitamin-rich and supplement-rich smoothies and liquid food. And he's got many, many books on juicing and living that sort of raw food diet. I would say that's probably, and Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong here, that's probably 99% of Jason's focus. However, one of the other issues he had in his life was he was a 2 bottle of wine a night guy like me. And he was living this super healthy life, except there was a problem. Every night he was opening the wine. And so he recognized that this was not good, and it was dragging him down, and it was limiting his capacity in all areas of his life. And so he dealt with it. And he wrote the book, Kick the Drink. And again, it's a super logical, easy to follow book, and it dissects our belief structures around this drug, and it works powerfully well. And I would definitely add it into your library of books as you go on this journey to sobriety. Now, the final book I'm going to tell you about here, I've got to be honest with you, I've never read it. And I'm only recommending it here is because I've noticed that in the secret, hidden Facebook group that I have for my online members, they rave about this book. And it's still on my bookshelf, and I need to get round to reading it, because if what my customers, if my members, if what they're saying is true, this is a fantastic book. Especially for women, by all accounts. The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. It's by a lady called Catherine Gray. I believe she also quotes me in the book. I can't give it a personal endorsement because I've not read it, but I see nothing but rave reviews and comments about it from my own members. And they're a pretty savvy bunch, and so I'm going to give it an endorsement on their behalf. Okay, so 5 fantastic books that can make a real impact into this problem for you. Buy them all. Make it a part of that passionate process that you're going to go through to find your own happy, sober life. If you're worried about your drinking, don't be a casual observer of this stuff. You have to engage in the process. Why don't you join me today for a free quit drinking webinar, and I'll explain how my process works in detail. I will also give you a copy of my book, Alcohol Lied to Me, free as a gift for staying till the end. Go to the website, stopdrinkingexpert.com, and sign up for today's free quit drinking webinar. Thank you so much for being with me today. Hopefully I see you in London or New York or at some point in the future. Thanks a lot. Speak soon.